We've all been there, and I'm not going to pretend that I haven't been there because I've sat on both sides of the fence. I'm talking about drowning in the endless noise of the fitness industry, and more specifically, being bombarded with expert opinions on how to train optimally, stressing us out over every tiny detail like it's going to make or break progress. Then, on the other side, you've got the stick to the basics bros who seem to think lifting anything that doesn't involve a barbell is some sort of blasphemy, with an even smaller niche of lifters thinking that any one type of method of resistance, whether it's bodyweight training, barbells, or machines, is superior to the other. And fortunately, this ideology is slowly but surely dying out, and it's kind of being replaced by training methodologies instead of modes of resistance. And look, I get it. People have flipped from one side or the other because they're sick of folks like, I suppose, Doug Brignoli, rest in peace, who had a very, some would say, scientific approach to training. And then there's the old school guys who say that, well, I suppose any type of resistance training that has body weights or a barbell is best. And it's tempting to side with the basics only crowd, especially when you look at the results of old school bodybuilders and what they got from sticking to fundamental lifts. After all, those dudes got jacked. But here's where I start to raise an eyebrow. See, I have no problem with the basics. The problem is most people who preach the basics just stick to the basics, don't actually know what the basics are. They take this idea way too literally. They think just because a movement like the bench press or squat has been around forever, that's all you need. And let me break it to you, that's not what makes these lifts basic. There's a reason they've become staples in every program, but it's about understanding why they work, not just blindly repeating them because Arnold did them 50 years ago. And take the bench press, for example. Why is it a basic lift? Is it because it's simple? No. It's because it's stable, it has opposing forces, and it targets the chest in a way that maximizes hypertrophy. For most people, I'm not one of them. It's also easy to track progress because of its descending resistance profile, and that's what makes it great. But here's the catch. Most people hear bench press and think it's the only chest exercise worth doing. It's got history on its side, sure, but why should that stop us from finding something better or tweaking it to improve results? That's where so many lifters get stuck, especially when you consider that just because the bench press has history and it was one of the first, doesn't mean it was the first. The first as a horizontal press was indeed the floor press, which only came with safety issues, and someone had the bright idea of training with more range of motion, hint, hint, and making the lift, I suppose, easier to measure as a competition lift as opposed to a floor press. So that's that. But there's this weird bias towards the old school basics. It's almost like a religion. They worship the bench press, the squat, and the deadlift without asking if these lifts could be optimized or if there are any better options out there. And don't get me wrong, these lifts are great, but they're not the only way. And this is coming from someone who has had extraordinary, let's say, hamstring gains over the last year, and I haven't touched the deadlift. I haven't done a free weight barbell squat in also nearly a year now, and have had exceptional leg gains. Same with the bench press. I think I haven't benched in 3 years now. Now, so let's flip the script for a second. Imagine if I had just to stick to the basics. I would have never touched preacher curls, overhead cable extensions, dumbbell fly presses, as you can see here actually. I mean, heck, I would have thrown away every machine out the window, but I'd still be grinding out chin ups and dips with my arms sticking out, and having, well, irritated shoulders, elbows because of my trouble that I have with nerves, wondering why nothing was growing, even though chin ups are chin-ups are indeed a fantastic back and bicep builder, but it comes to a point where they are no longer a bicep builder. So this comes to the question, and don't even get me started on the you can't start your workout with a machine crowd. They'll look at you sideways if your first chest exercise isn't a bench press. But the truth is, machines can offer some incredible variations that target the chest muscle in ways which free weights can't. And recent studies on hypertrophy of a specific area of a muscle is starting to shine some light on this, particularly when we look at the comparison between hypertrophy around groups who do only squats compared to groups who do squats, leg press, and leg extensions. It's about understanding why an exercise works, not just because it's popular. Another example is people trash cable exercises quite a lot. It seems that even though the cable machine is an absolutely amazing exercise, it doesn't actually get too much attention in my gym other than for tricep pushdowns. And I think that's because in people's minds, they don't really know how to train their triceps with any other way. I don't see anyone doing close grip bench pressing, doing any kind of overhead barbell extension. I'm at an amazing gym, and I haven't seen a single person do an overhead barbell extension, actually. It seems that people only do the cable machine for pushdowns. Cable flies get a bit of love, and then there's some cable curls, but really, that's all it's used for, mainly just pushdowns. So I digress. Why use cables when you've got dumbbells? They might ask. Well, here's the deal. Cables offer constant tension throughout the entire range of motion. We know this, that's fine. That's something dumbbells can't do. You could make the case they are more stable, quicker to set up. They have their own advantages. And even though the advantages might be small, that can be just small enough to consider how it impacts your training by making the training shorter if you can superset a lot of cable exercises together like I do. That's why you might see me doing cable lateral raises or some other weird variation where it's behind the back. And just know that it's because I've taken the time to understand how muscle mechanics work for me, because I'm at a point where I can just hit the cable lateral raises and it will grow my shoulders. And I'm fine with that because I do other things for my shoulders. I have a variety of shoulder exercises. My delts are also very active in my other hobbies. So this is just going to give me the best bang for my buck in terms of when you compare it to the overall fatigue that I might build up on a week-to-week basis. So, bang for buck, it doesn't just come down to raw stimulus. It can also come down to, how much is this going to mess me up? And that's something that as you get advanced, people should probably understand a little bit more. And this is where it gets frustrating. If some biomechanic gurus promotes a gimmicky new lift, people will immediately call it out, and rightfully so, because not every innovation is worth your time. But then when the same biomechanics guy suggests something smart, like a cable variation, that's actually better for hypertrophy for some people, they might mock that too. It's like people are scared of anything new, even if you could help them get better results. I mean, why settle for what worked in the past when we can build on it, improve it, and take our training to the next level? Now, look, I'm not saying the basics won't get you results. They will, but they'll also hold you back if you don't understand the why behind them. Sticking to the same lifts year after year just because they've been around forever, it's lazy thinking. Okay, it's super lazy. If you truly want to reach your potential, you've got to experiment, push the boundaries, and open your mind. This is something that certainly I've opened my mind to on, take for example, leg training. I've actually minimized the amount of work that I do for my hamstrings, and I've greatly changed the way I do my hamstring curls. Seated hamstring curls, I keep saying, is the only thing I do for my hamstrings, and my hamstrings have blown up over this last year. I'm probably the only person in the gym who does them the way I do. You've seen the way I do my hamstring curls on my other videos. So my point is that, look, I've been training for about 6 years now, and I still do things differently from time to time, and still pick up something that gives me the edge. Even though people would say, "Oh, you need to do hip hinges, or you need to do more than one variation of a hamstring exercise." There are some muscle groups that, for me, benefit from lower variation and others from higher, just from a raw stimulus and time efficiency standpoint. So at the end of the day, this is why I've been able to push take for example, my back growth past a plateau over the last year. If you're wondering how I measure that plateau, it's just in case of measuring the weight lifted through a standardized range of motion. I'm not saying that I have pushed a growth plateau. I can't really notice a huge difference over the last year, but look, my traps and lats are pretty damn big. So I don't stop at chin ups and basic curls. I added in preacher curls, overhead barbell extensions, overhead cable extensions, and some other unconventional lifts. And look, guess what? I'm sitting here with over 17-inch arms. My back gains are better than ever, despite me training my arms even more than ever. And I feel and look better for it. The numbers are slowly ticking up. So the next someone says, just stick to the basics, ask them if they even know what that means. Challenge yourself and challenge them. Question what you've always been told, and don't be afraid to get uncomfortable with your training, not just physically, mentally. Change something new, do less of something, do more of another thing, because that's where the real growth happens. So let me know if you made sense of any of these ramblings, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.